biblical scholar, I swear.
Chairman of the jury, 1931, the anniversary minus a day. The jury sitting right there did indeed free Jack Legs Diamond. But Jack Legs Diamond was a liar, a cheat, a torturer, a murderer, a bootlegger. He was a folk hero, and that's why he was liberated. So Mr. Jones is saying do the same justice to Clement Moore as he said to do that they did to Jack Legs Diamond, and I wouldn't put Clement Moore in the same category as Jack Legs Diamond, but I think the upshot is the same. Go against the evidence and do something that isn't warranted by the evidence just because you can. That's not the way the system works. Now, somebody has called this whole effort a literary whodunit. If you're writing a detective story, they always say you start at the end and you work backwards. And I would like to do that tonight. Where we're going to start? I would start on September 21st, 1897. In the New York Sun, there was a letter that was written to the Sun editors. My little friends tell me that there is no Santa Claus. And an editor by the name of Frances P. Church wrote a letter in the Sun because her father said, if I see it in the Sun, that means it's true. And the letter in part says, there is a veil covering the unseen world, which not the strongest man, nor even the united strength of all the strongest men that ever lived could tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernal beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Ah, Virginia, in all this world there is nothing else real and abiding. No Santa Claus? Thank God he lives, and he lives forever. This is the upshot of the creation by whomever it was made that's been in our culture since the 1820s and which we repeat every year with the rituals in our own homes, which you heard my daughter testify, give her opening statement to. This is the sacred impact of Santa Claus. So let's start with that and work backwards. Look at the two men that we summoned back from the grave who testified here. Number one, you've got Clement Moore, whose relatives are here today, and they brought his writing desk. He was a man, he lived on this earth, and he did a lot of good work. The question is not that. The question is, did he write this poem? He was a narrow man. He was a scholar. He probably very few times left the security of his house. He said that his wife sent him out for a turkey, and he had an epiphany on the way to the market, and on the way back, he got into his study, and he wrote this poem. 56 lines of memorable poetry that's lasted since then without making one change in 1822. And somehow that poem got from New York City the following year and appeared in the Sentinel. Okay, that's what he says. He had slaves, we've already brought that out. He was a very wealthy man, he had a lot of children. He was very good to his children, he had his good sides, and he had his bad sides. Now, let us look at Henry Livingston. Henry Livingston immediately answered the call to his country. He enlisted the day after his daughter, his first child, was born. And he marched all the way to Montreal, and then he marched all the way down to St. Lawrence to the Rock of Quebec, and he tried to take that citadel for the American forces. Why? Not imperialistically. He wanted to boot the British out of here. He wanted to be free. He wanted liberty to prevail in this country. And he put his legs and his breathing, and he put his body, and he put his whole soul into that effort, and it was unsuccessful. He came back to his farm in the Poughkeepsie area. He tilled the earth. He was a simple man. He had a little bit of a slip that went out. Boats would pass by and he helped them replenish their supplies. He served his town justice. He was a surveyor. He was outdoors all the time. He was susceptible to the rhythms of nature, the sun and the moon. And as far as his domestic life goes, He had 10 children, and he cherished them. He cherished them so dearly that he wrote them many poems.
This is the poem.
This is one of the poems. This is one of the poems that he wrote. That's before us tonight. Now, if we look at the end product of that letter that was written in the New York Sun, you don't get lemons out of an apple tree, and you don't get apples out of a lemon tree. When people are expressing themselves artistically, whatever is inside is bound to come out. I'm going to ask this jury, I'm going to implore this jury to take what you heard in this courtroom tonight, and you tell us, you tell everybody in this courtroom, everybody in this news media, everybody in the wide world, which sensibility, which imagination, which heart, and which soul this poem came from, and I would submit to you that the choice is very simple. It could not have come out of Clement Moore. It had to come out of Henry Livingston.